Kung Fu Cowboy, tennis shoes on my feet. I'm a Kung Fu Cowboy, hamburgers.
Kung Fu Cowboy here? Hey, Bear's over there. Bear, I should bring that chair over here and you can sit with me. Or maybe over here. He's sitting in my director's chair. It's like this one. This particular director's chair, if you can see, has an arm on this side, which is covered with this. This is actually a script supervisor thing. It's made to put scripts into, and then she takes notes on them and puts them back and this and that. So this is actually a professional movie thing for script supervisor. But it's missing the arm on this side because I can play guitar in it now. Otherwise, I'd have to play out here, you know, the arm would be in the way. But I can actually play guitar in this chair because it's missing this one arm, which I personally took off. But anyway, hello, Bear. Hello, Bear. You were supposed to be a part of this podcast originally. It was supposed to be Kung Fu Cowboy and a cat named Bear. I guess it's just Kung Fu Cowboy now. Walking around down here. Okay, so anyway, what was the next thing on my list? Oh, the next thing on my list. I must have written this thing about 10 years ago because I don't remember this. These answers are kind of interesting. It says, why does Kung Fu Cowboy, Plowboy, might as well be, Kung Fu Cowboy play music? Well, anyway, it said to sing with his Tai Chi enthusiasm. I scratched my head when I read that. And when I read that, I wrote that. But okay, that's an interesting way to put it. Now, I told you I love to sing. Now, what would I say is my singing style? Well, actually, the last couple of songs I've been singing have been so aggressive. The song I just submitted that's going to come out on August 8th is called Slave Owners. And it's about the fact that the Supreme Court are slave owners. That's why they don't believe in women's productive rights, because as slave owners, you want the women slaves to breed. You want them to produce more babies. So you don't believe in birth control, contraception, or abortion. People can try to figure out, well, that's just simply it, you know, because there's no logical reason. It causes heartache and pain and suffering, and the kids end up in bad situations if they're unwanted children. It's not good. It's not even good for the future. They're going to be criminals and a lot of the time, you know, unwanted children. Even being a wanted child is not a guarantee of a great life. So, anyway, the point being is I wrote a song called Slave Owners. But when I sang it, I have several singing voices. So that's, I guess, what we could talk about for a minute. My singing voice. Well, I started off with Sing Along with Mitch. Is it Mitch Mitchell? He used to put out singing records back in the 50s. And so Sing Along with Mitch, I think. And at least I love to sing along with Mitch. And then, of course, when I got turned 12 and I started listening to pop music and got myself a little portable record player. It was like a little suitcase. You could open it up and play records. And it was battery powered too. And not that I could afford, well, I guess I could afford batteries, but I mostly would play it in the garage. And I started singing along to all the pop music, you know, and the radio was one thing. I had a radio, which I'd bungee cord on my bike. I called it a chicken bike, but it had the big handlebars up here. So I could fit the stereo in here and tape it, you know, bungee it in there. And then I could ride my bike with my stereo pointing right at me, blasting away. And those were in the days of early FM when they'd actually play a whole album. So it was just like wonderful driving around on my bicycle, listening to an album, stoned. That was great. I've had a great life in every phase of my life. There have been some real great living. So anyway, singing. So I started off being able to just sing. And then when I was singing all this pop stuff, and then I got exiled to Newfoundland, I was adopted, or my guardian was Sally Keene. And she was one of the wealthier families, or wealthiest, wealthier families in Newfoundland. And so she paid for me to have opera lessons and music theory lessons, which was great. She kind of believed in me, and maybe it was a way to kind of, I don't know, it was wonderful. She's the only person who's really been supportive of my career my whole life. Only been a couple people who've really been supportive, you know, and she was one of them. That was great. But that was very valuable. And the singing lessons were with Gwent Lewis, a very famous person. He's in the Wikipedia, and I'm not. But Gwent Lewis, he was a Irish opera singer in England who became very famous, but he'd retired and was living in Newfoundland, and that's how he became my instructor, my opera instructor. But he used to always get mad at me. And he would say, stop singing like a colored person. Or stop singing like a colored person. I don't, with my Irish, I don't sing any. I'd have to think about it. I don't do accents. I'm not practiced or trained in accents. I might be able, if I heard somebody, I might imitate him. But anyway, he was Irish. But he talked very civil because he was in England in opera. So he probably talked perfect English, to be honest with you. I don't remember. I don't recall an Irish accent whatsoever. So anyway. He used to always criticize me for singing like a black person. And because I was singing the blues and I was singing pop songs and stuff like that, so he was always getting mad at me, you know, and no, you got to sing it like this. Anyway, so, but Chris Yulden was one of my favorites. And I came to realize when he said that, it's like, really? I didn't even think of it. I was just kind of singing the feeling and the mode. And then I started listening to one of my favorite singers, who's Chris Yulden. I got a couple of solo albums even, and he's one of my favorite singers to sing along to. Our voices are pretty similar. And he's just such an incredible singer. Once again, my favorite junkie. I think he would have gone farther without the heroin probably. But that's what I understand. I think he even admitted it. But one of his best songs is Needle and Spoon. I think he wrote it too, so that kind of tells the story. But anyway, great song, Needle and Spoon. You want to know what it's like to be on heroin? And that song expresses it very romantically. I give him credit. It's a beautiful, great song. I don't know about beautiful, great. Chris Yulden, I loved anyway his singing style. And so anyway, I've rediscovered him, and in the last couple of years, I came to realize I want to sing to him. So in my iPhone, I'm creating a little collection of people to sing along to. But this brings up another thing. When I was in Newfoundland, I didn't go see Alice Cooper because I thought it was a girl. And I didn't know I want to go see. Oh, is a girl performing in the college tonight? But it turned out it was Alice Cooper. And I didn't realize what I missed until the next day when I heard all the stories. The stories included, and I always believed this was true, but you could buy them in Newfoundland, you know, because they use them for chumming and whatever. They're buckets of chicken heads. And, you know, you throw them out and it attracts fish and, you know, fishing. So chicken heads and the blood, during the concert, supposedly, this is what I heard from everybody I know was there. He took these buckets of chicken heads and threw them on the audience, which I thought was a terrible thing to do. But everybody just thought that everybody was more, I don't know, they weren't negative about it. Like, it's negative I was hearing about it. But that's what he supposedly did. He threw all these chicken heads on the audience and blood, you know, most of the bucket, half blood and half heads. Anyway. But everybody started playing his record the next day. I was living at Doyle House, which is a fraternity, which was so ironic. I was exiled from the USA, living in this fraternity house in my second year in Newfoundland, going to college, first year of high school and then a year of college. So that second year I was in that fraternity house, and the fraternity house was called Doyle House because it was by, I've got one of the blankets, I think, still. Can't remember his full name right this second. Something E. Doyle. But anyway, the Doyle House. He was an American who had fled America, I think on tax charges. And in order to stay in Newfoundland, he bought off the government by, I guess, submitting some sort of money to build this fraternity. That was one of his contributions, probably with other buyouts to pay off to the government. And they let him stay in Newfoundland so he could escape extradition back to the United States. So I was an exile from America living in a fraternity built by an exile of America. So I thought that was cute. And there was a painting of him down in the lobby. And evidently somebody had painted bars over his face. And so they had to hire a professional painter to come in and paint over the bars. So it gave the picture kind of an interesting look because it was a little distorted because it had, you know, it was thick. The paint had kind of a rivers of paint, you know, these lines of paint. So it created an uneven surface that they painted over. But they restored his painting with anyway, you could see where the bars were kind of. But yeah, so that was my second year in Canada as a fugitive from the exile from the United States. Okay, so where were we? Singing. Oh, so I got to Alice Cooper. Boy, it's me, the storyteller. I can really go off on a tangent, can't I? Anyway, the Alice Cooper, I think he's a great singer. And I think that half of his music is fabulous. After their first album, the first album's trash. I don't like it. Pretty Things or whatever it is. I don't think there's a single song on that album I like. But starting with, is it Love It to Death? And then the one with the snake on it, Desperate. No, anyway, whatever. And the second album, even School's Out album's got some stuff. And then Millionaire Babies or whatever it is, these starting to, sell out. They were just trying to pump out stuff by that time, especially. But those first 3, maybe 4 albums were just fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Really, really good. I never understood that engineer. He gets a lot of credit. I think he was a horrible engineer, and he's real famous, and he's done all kinds of other big projects since then. But I don't know what's wrong with that guy. I think he's a terrible engineer. Sorry to say that. I love the records, and I love what he did. But when I was in the mid-'70s, I was producing stuff better than him. I was never able to understand why he was considered good, and I should have. Anyway, I'm a much better engineer than him. Let's put it that way. And there's not everybody I'm better than, but him I definitely am. And but anyway, I love the albums. Okay, singing. I love singing to Alice Cooper. And there's a lot of songs that I can sing by him that I just think I can really nail. But they cause me to rasp my throat a little bit. That extra grittiness. I have to kind of like put a certain tension into my voice to create that rattle, that whatever, that abrasive texture. In fact, most people, I would even complain that my voice is too pure. I think John Lennon used to complain about the same thing about his voice. He thought his voice sounded like a girl or a sissy. So he would do things to try to dirty it up and stuff. And I heard that made me feel good because I've always thought my voice is too pretty. And so John Lennon had the same problem. Paul McCartney and him could both sing really raspy sometimes, but they were really pushing it, I think. Paul McCartney's got a really raspy voice. He can really take it to the extreme, even more than Alice Cooper, I think. But anyway, but yeah. So that made me feel good. So now when you hear my voice, I sometimes do things like I'll actually take my voice and I'll run it through a Marshall amplifier. I'll actually distort my voice. And then I listen to it back and I go, oh yeah, no, that sounds cool. That sounds better. I like my pure voice, but it doesn't to me sometimes express as much emotion. So I have to put on that grit, like Rod Stewart. Now, why is he famous? He's famous because he can't sound pretty. The guy in Led Zeppelin, he's got a high voice, and that's the other problem. He's got a high tenor voice, and over my lifetime, I've tried to figure out as a singer what it takes to be famous as a singer. And unfortunately, you have to sing like a girl in order for girls to want to buy your record. In other words, you got to be up in the girl range. If you try to sing along with all those early Beatle records and Zeppelin records, they're all way up there, like a girl range. And that's what commercial. The girls like listening to that range. It appeals to them because that's their range. And so that was always a hurdle for me because I can sing up there, but my voice has obviously always tried to deepen and go a little darker or thicker, than that. Not as thick as a black voice. I'm definitely not that raspy or deep or dark, but I'm not really as true tenor anymore. And I probably was as a teenager, but not anymore. To hit those high notes is falsetto and difficult. And I'm going to hit my 15-minute mark. But anyway, I like what I was saying is my last couple of songs I've been singing Alice Cooper style because I've been really mean and hostile. So singing, I hate you, doesn't sound as dramatic. Like, I hate you. See, it gives it more, I think more power and meaning. So anyway, that raspier voice, I'm capable of it. So I've been using it lately, and I feel like it worked better for the songs. I listen to it, and it doesn't sound like me. I feel like I'm kind of listening more to somebody else, too, so it's just kind of neat. All right. The Kung Fu Cowboy's out of here, the singer. And I got a huge range, by the way. I'm three plus octaves or something like that. But I love to sing. I love to sing. I'm a singer. In fact, if I would have never been a guitar player, I'd probably be famous. Because if I just sang, I'd probably be famous a long time ago.